Hey everyone, it's Alan over at Cobblers Plus, and today we got another daily video for you. I'm talking about spray dyes, so come join us and check it out. Again, thank you for joining us today. We're talking about spray dyes in particular. We've got the Saphir Tenax here. A lot of people may have heard the term spray dyes. A lot of cobblers obviously know about it. Cobblers use it often. A lot of shoe shiners use it often. But a lot of the general public does not even know what it is. The spray dyes, obviously like the name implies, it's a dye that you can spray on. It's an aerosol version. Shake it and you can spray. Now, obviously this is not a full-on dye like an alcohol-based dye or an oil-based dye or even an acrylic dye as well. It's a little bit different. It goes on thicker, and just there's certain applications that you can use it on and certain applications you don't even want to mess with, basically. Now these here in particular, this is just a few of the colors that they have. They have a number of other options available, and I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. Sorry, I had to double check my notes, but currently there are 41 colors. Obviously they may add more colors down the road and kind of change it, but as far as the product itself, the application for it, obviously, like I said, it's very simple. You just shake it up very well and then you spray it. Now, the types of things that you can spray with it, you don't want to do it on your full grain leathers. Definitely no suedes or nubucks or oiled leathers. This is strictly kind of one of those more touch-up color or finish-off color, if it's kind of beat up. One example, I've got two pairs of Cole Haans. One's a ladies, one's a men's. So with ladies' heels, for example, a number of those heels out there, they may have like a plastic heel base like that, or like in this case here, has a leather wrap on it. Eventually, these wraps kind of, as you can tell, this one hasn't been worked on yet. I want to make sure that it's one that we haven't worked on so I could show you. This one's been beaten up significantly, and it's not in horrible shape, so we're still able to fix that up very well. But sometimes if there's a whole chunk missing on a number of shoes out there, it's not worth replacing that entire leather heel wrap due to cost. It's a big project, basically. Well, not a project, but a big process to remove this entire heel base, get it rewrapped, re-secure it, and so on. So it's a really big job. So a good way to touch it up sometimes is just using a spray dye like this. If you see that little white spot coming through, like right here on the bottom, you can see that there's white plastic. Typically, most of the heel bases here, they have white plastic underneath. Sometimes they'll have a black, sometimes, gray I've seen as well. But typically, most cases, it's white. And if you have a black pair, a brown pair, or something darker, that white stands out like a sore thumb. And so if you're in a rush out the door, or, you're just not wanting to have to spend that kind of money to have the heel wrap replaced completely, because it doesn't matter which cobbler you go to, the heel wrap is still fairly expensive compared to some of those shoes out there that if they get beaten up and they're one of the shoes that you like to wear for certain events, it might be more cost effective just to have a can of this here and just make sure you do it outside, not indoors or a highly ventilated area. Spray it, give it about 5 to 10 minutes, and it'll be all dry and ready to go. The same story applies with corrected grain leather. Now, obviously, with full grain leather, it's a different story. We recommend that you use proper polishes, creams, and waxes. Where with corrected grain leather, you have a lot of limitations. Say this one had a faded color. Unfortunately, all the ones I have in here are already done and have been touched up in some form or way. But for example, this one right here, if the toe ends up getting worn out significantly, and this one wasn't in bad enough shape to be able to show, but if it is worn out with color damage, this is a corrected grain, not a full grain leather. Corrected grain leather meaning is if you take hide leather and they get split up into sections, the very top layer is your full grain. That's for your high quality leathered shoes. You'll be able to see little pore structures, maybe some minor flaws in the leather, but that's how leather naturally is. So you're going to find that kind of stuff, and that can all be fixed up very easily. Now with corrected grain leather, which is a level down, sorry I can't talk this morning, but a level down basically, it's a little more on the fleshy side. There's not much pore structure. There's not much of anything to it. So what companies do is they tan it, they go through the process of basically curing it and everything, but they still need to be able to apply a finish. Regular dye doesn't tend to bind to it as easily during the tanning process, any kind of alcohol-based dyes, so they have to do what's called corrected grain. They basically, roll it out, press it out. They have different methods depending on what kind of texture they're after or kind of finish, and so they basically apply a finish over top of it in a very thick, heavy coat of some form of dye that doesn't quite settle into the dye. It settles over top, or doesn't quite settle into the leather. It settles over top. And basically these spray dyes here come in handy for that kind of stuff, just because, hey, all right, you have a corrected grain pair of shoes, that's not a bad thing. I mean, long term, obviously, it's frowned upon, or to avid shoe enthusiasts, they frown upon that. But I'm sure some of those avid shoe enthusiasts have at least one or two pairs of the corrected grain shoes, and they love that shoe. But they're not going to post it in the forums or groups that they have that. So, I'm not going to judge, okay? I work on all kinds of shoes here. I mean, high quality, low quality, mid-range, everything. So I understand. Everyone's got different options. I could have one guy that comes in with a pair of shoes that's over $1,000 and another pair that's barely pushing $100, So we got to be able to accommodate such things, and the spray dyes are perfect for that. Come in a variety of colors. You don't have to put on a heavy coat, just a very light spritz, and it'll help touch up that color. Obviously, you can use it to change the color of a shoe completely, but I would recommend saving that for potentially either an event type shoe like a Halloween costume party, a gag, or some kind of major event. We've actually had to do that with a pair of rollerblades that were of cheap quality leather and some synthetics, and we had to dye it pink. Well, there was no way of dyeing it, especially the synthetic material. So we talked to the person and we used some of this. This one here is blue. I don't seem to have any more pink left. We must have used it all up on those shoes and never got it back in. But there are color options, and you can basically dye an entire pair of shoes or skates or boots or whatever it may be. But keep in mind that long term, they're not going to hold up as well. It clogs up the pores, so you won't really be able to recondition those uppers significantly if they're a leather. And stripping it down is a mess. I mean, trying to remove any of that kind of spray dye off of there, it just becomes really messy. In other words, you're going to go through a lot of racks just trying to remove it, so keep that in mind as well. So that's why we recommend, if you really have to use a spray dye, just do a light touch up to try to blend in the color or match it or anything like that. The same goes for the ladies' heels. For men's shoes on the toes or the back of the heel when it's a driving heel, for example, back here, that gets beaten up pretty badly. Those are things that you want to use a spray dye for, or for just certain events or gag, or some kind of important showcasing, basically, where you just need to have them for like one evening, or just a couple real quick. These will work phenomenally for it, but unfortunately afterwards might not be ideal, just because it's not going to hold up forever, and there's not much you can do for removing it in some cases either, just because of how much work it would end up being. Now, application, again, one more thing I'll mention is it's really kind of up to you on which steps you're going to take. Typically, if you are trying to change the color of a pair of shoes or boots or whatever it is, if you're really trying to change it, you're going to end up having to strip off as much as you can of the original color so that this binds as well as possible. Now, if you're doing something like a touch-up, for example, you could go through your polish, your waxing, your buffing, whatever you need to, and again, because it's such a light coat, just kind of spritz it on very lightly. That's all that needs to be done. And typically, I usually recommend doing that during the whole process. So say you start going through and shining and polishing, conditioning this pair of shoes here. You go through the process. You don't want to let it sit there for an extended period of time and then start spraying it. You want to spray it while everything is still kind of, trying to dry and cure. In combination with drying and curing on this, it kind of bonds all the different products together very well. Now, one thing definitely, again, because this is for smooth textured leather or synthetics or man-made materials that are on the smoother side, Can't use this on suedes or nubucks, obviously, but if you have a mirror shine on your toe, this is for you enthusiasts out there especially who really love to care for your shoes and, you know, make a shoe very shiny there on the toe with that mirror gloss finish. This does not go over top. This will not fix a scuff on your mirror shine. This will not secure it. This will not finish it off. And if anything, it is going to ruin your hard work at trying to create that mirror shine and perfecting it. Do not use this. If you really need to touch up color, typically on a mirror shine, you do that on a full grain leather shoe, and before you start doing the mirror shine, you're going to be doing any kind of scuff repair underneath the waxes first. Now, if there's something along the lines of a synthetic material, or man-made material at least, that you're trying to do a mirror shine, you're only going to get so far in the first place with a mirror shine, typically on corrected grain leathers. But you're probably going to have to use this before you do the mirror shine. As much as I hate to say it, yes, you will have to most likely use the spray dye before the mirror shine begins. But if you're doing a mirror shine on corrected grain leather, I don't know, best of luck for you. Best of luck to you. I've seen some great mirror shines on those. They work out fine. But again, my thought process is long term. I don't think about, hey, I finish these up, take some quick pictures, wear them out one time, and they're trashed. That's my thought process. That's why I just want to point that out to you. If you're doing a corrected grain, great for you, but I don't expect that to last all that long, unfortunately. Now, obviously, Saphir is not the only one with spray dyes. They are definitely our favorite one. I've got a couple that we also use in the back sometimes. This is some really old mMeltonian Nulife spray, spelled with N-U and then life. This has been around for quite some time, but unfortunately it's no longer made. As soon as this company right here, Johnson & Johnson, bought them out, they kind of screwed it up pretty badly. They had multiple color issues and blends, and it was just a nightmare. So the company ended up trashing the entire brand. It sucks. I mean, mMeltonian's not the best, but it was still an awesome product for those cases where you got no other options, and mMeltonian had it. They had it, and Johnson & Johnson screwed it up. Oh well. But there's another brand also, Moneysworth Best. They do a pretty great product too. I mean, I like their stuff, but at the same time, I don't like their stuff. It just depends on the color, I guess. So there are certain colors that they have that I'm not happy with. You know, the markdown. I mean, this one's a light brown, and it's probably between a medium to light brown, so that's not the problem. But there are certain colors where it's written down as one, and it has like this certain hue, and I can't remember off the top of my head which colors they were. We got literally hundreds of cans. If you've seen Marcus Fisher taking some of the pictures of the back area, that's where he works, is in the back area, and there's all those the spray dyes just stacked up. There are literally over 100 cans of that stuff, and there are more in boxes packed away as backups and extras. So I just don't remember which color it is. But anyways, back to this whole thing. There are other brands out there too. There's Kelly's, as well. I think Angelus makes some as well. So there's a number of them out there, but we started using this Tenax stuff from Saphir, and I was skeptical about it due to price comparison to some of the other ones at the time, and it was definitely well worth it. Way better. I mean, as far as everything overall, you can see these little dinky spray nozzles here. They always broke on us on a lot of these, and that's the same thing on the mMeltonian. Just dinky little ones there. But once we started using the Tenax, we realized that they have a large nozzle right there to spray. I'm not going to spray it, obviously. And it never got clogged on us, at least not as much as these ones. Eventually they do get clogged if you're letting them dry out or not using them often, but they worked out great. Plus, as far as how well it held up on the shoes, the dye itself, very well. Durability wise, it held up very well. So I definitely like this stuff. I mean, I don't use it often. I spray dye every now and then. Obviously we have to. I mean, we'll get sometimes like a pair of Western boots that are really low quality, and they have a plastic heel block, and it's black underneath, but the top was spray dyed some kind of tan or beige. What are you going to do about that? I mean, you could go through with a paintbrush with some Angelus acrylic paint, but they're a cheap pair of boots, and putting that kind of time and effort into making it look perfect, sadly we do have to charge for it. Well, you gotta remember, this is a business after all, so we have to charge for that. Our time is very precious to us, so we'd have to charge for it. In most cases, people just want to fix stuff very quickly, and so spray dye really comes in handy for that. And you know, if you're just needing to do a quick touch up on your heels, or if you have a corrected grain leather and you just need to touch it up some, these will work out great. Again, 41 color options, so basically over 40 color options. There can be more in the future, who knows, maybe you're watching this video a year from the time of its recording, there could be 50 colors, but I think Saphir's got all the color options down fairly well. They've even got silver and gold. Hopefully they add more color options when it comes to the gold and silver, just because there are some blends of silver and gold that are a little finicky, in other words. So I just wanted to mention that if Saphir is watching this, please add some more silver, gold, pewter, and some other crazy metallic colors that are very much needed at times, because there's no other option other than spray dye to use on in those cases. Now, last few things I'll mention real quick. One thing about use of this, again, use it strictly outside if you're going to be using it, or in a highly ventilated area. This is an aerosol, and it's going to get in your lungs. I have accidentally made the mistake of not wearing a mask, and we have ventilation back there as well. We have you know, filters, charcoal filters and everything. We have ventilation shaft that suck everything out. And it was actually those pink the roller skates that was turning pink. I had pink sediment right up in here. On the whole drive home, I thought I was gonna die. I was coughing, and I look in the napkin, there's pink. Yeah, pink coughing up. I was like, oof. Well, I guess I made my lungs pinker and stuff, I guess, but otherwise, if I made them blue, that would have been bad. I would have made my lungs blue. Not good, but I learned my lesson. I've got a number of different masks back there that are hefty, so I'm not dealing with that ever again. That was a horrible mistake. I was kind of, you know, trying to quickly get a layer on there so it dries and stuff, because it's such a heavy coat. I really had to let it dry overnight, but, you know, that was kind of it. Now, as far as last thing on here, ingredients, there really isn't much that I can tell you about it. Obviously, it's an aerosol, so it has, you know, pressurized dyes in there. The dyes most likely have some form of an acrylic mixture in it to make sure that it bonds nicely and is still at least somewhat flexible and durable. But as far as the key ingredients, most companies are not really going to mention all their, you know, key ingredients in their aerosol versions, and that's understandable. There's really not much else that I could really tell you about it. Waxes, I highly doubt there are any waxes. I mean, even if you end up going through a process of liquid, making it more liquid, you're still going to have that issue of nozzles getting stuck, and the waxes don't bond to such dyes very easily. So that's the best I can tell you about the ingredients in here. Otherwise, I mean, but as far as you know, harmful ingredients in here, again, Saphir tries to keep things as natural as possible, but obviously for an aerosol version, they have to add certain chemicals in there, and that's kind of expected. Unfortunately, that's always going to be the downside of any aerosol product out there. I don't care what you say about it. If it's aerosol, there's some form of chemical in there to allow it to be, you know, forced out of a nozzle like this, you know, so just expect that. If you really want to dive down into it, these cans do have certain ingredients listed on here that may be harmful, that if ingested, obviously if you're using this, you should be an adult, at least ages of 18 and up, but you know, keep in mind that if this is ingested, if it gets into your eyes, direct spray or anything like that, you should seek medical attention as quickly as possible. Call poison control if you need to, if it's nothing major, but otherwise go to the ER and have them kind of help wash it out of your eyes, or wash it yourself as well. I know some of you out there are very DIY at home type stuff. That's what I'm like. I'm not going straight to the hospital most cases. Yeah, that's just the way I was raised. We did a lot of home remedy stuff. But back to the spray. As far as this being an aerosol, obviously there's going to be warnings, danger all over it. There's a little flammable thing. Aerosol stuff is flammable. Keep that in mind. No open flames either. Don't be trying to light it on fire. Try to dry it quicker. You're actually going to cause also more problems, even if you're being apparently safe about it. Don't light it. Do not light it. I want to crush this, but if I crush it, it's going to blow up on my face. I'm going to end up a tan color. Ooh, get a tan. This is not spray tan, okay? Not spray tan. Used on shoe leather, okay? Not skin leather, okay? It's not spray tan. But although if I blow this thing up and crush it well enough, I don't know if I have the strength to do that, but I'd end up tan. Help my pale complexion a little bit. But anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video. Obviously, this is a product that not a lot of people cover, just because it's kind of frowned upon in the groups that are crazy about shoes and boots, all the forums and everything like that. Not recommended on your high quality leathers as well. I recommend mid-grade to low-grade footwear, just because that's all that you want to use this on anyways. Purses and belts, very, very carefully. I would recommend only on purses if you're just touching up the very bottom corners. Anything else, there's a high probability that it's going to rub off onto your clothes. So no jackets, no belts, none of that. No matter what any company ever tells you, whether it's these guys, Saphir, anyone that says, oh, our dye is not going to rub off onto your clothes, do not believe it, because if it's an aerosol version dye, probably 99.999% of the time it's going to rub off onto your clothes, and that 0.0001% of the time it's probably not even noticed that it rubbed off, because you had a dark piece of clothes and it was a dark color that was rubbing off anyways. But otherwise, I don't recommend that. So that was final disclosure basically. Anyways, again, thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and hit that notification bell icon to be notified about when we have our next video out, to be talking about more products. And I hope you enjoyed the video on spray dyes.